The following is brought to you by GFL Ag. Next thing you know the next thing. Next is Now is a short podcast discussing agriculture's emerging next-gen tech and trends as they're happening in our industry. Next is Now, presented by GFL Ag. Listen where you get your podcasts today.
I am Lindsay Smith with Real Agriculture and Real Ag Radio, and joining me now is Mike Steenhoek. He's the Executive Director of the Soy Transportation Coalition. Welcome here, Mike.
Hey, it's good to be with you.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
So yesterday morning, most of us woke up to a pretty, just unbelievable scene, really, at the Port of Baltimore, where the Francis Scott Key Bridge had been hit by a huge container load vessel and demolished, which I still, watching the video, can't believe it. That, of course, brings up the question of just how important is this port to agriculture commodities for this audience. Mike, you've got some of those numbers. What can you tell us about how important this port is?
Well, as far in comparison to some of the other export regions for soybeans and grain, like the Mississippi Gulf or like the Pacific Northwest, the Port of Baltimore is not as seismic as those particular port regions. The most recent numbers I've seen from 2023, about 300,000 metric tons of soybeans are exported from the ports of Baltimore, and that's pretty much 100% in shipping containers, not in bulk vessels. Well, you compare that to the Mississippi Gulf region around New Orleans, which accommodates 35.4 million metric tons of soybeans, so significantly more than what the Port of Baltimore accommodates. But there are other products that are a part of the agricultural economy, like fertilizers and other commodities as well. There's a significant amount of sugar that gets imported into the Port of Baltimore because there's a sugar refinery located there. While it's not as significant to the viability of the soybean and grain export program, kind of the broader picture is that these ports are really critical to the health of and success of the U.S. economy. And you have a disruption at one of them, the ripple effects can be quite profound.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So yes. So to that point, perhaps not from the grain perspective, the most important, but as you point out, logistics are a fully integrated system, and so challenges in one potentially have impacts on other. We do know, though, that there are other implications to agriculture. There's a lot of equipment that would go roll on, roll off. They call it equipment that goes through this port as well.
Yeah, farm machinery, whether it's on the import side or on the export side, it's all a part of that, the health of the industry. And you think about the success of a farmer. It's not just about putting a seed into the ground. You have to have the machinery that can facilitate it and harvest it and plant it, and then you've got to have inputs like fertilizers, and some of that goes through the Port of Baltimore, and so we've got some challenges within our industry for a variety of reasons. Our exports are down for, again, a number of reasons, but when that's your reality, you want to make sure your supply chain is operating at full throttle and it's not adding further insult to injury by increasing inefficiencies or costs. And so it's really alarming when you see these kind of situations occur. And to the earlier point, sometimes you'll see accidents occur with a bridge, a barge that will run into it, and then that's obviously will be disruptive for a period of time. What's quite significant about this is how absolute and comprehensive the devastation is, and how it's going to take a considerable period of time to remove that debris of that bridge from the channel before we have any hope for traffic to resume in and out of the Port of Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was sort of one of the, questions I think that we will learn about in the coming days is, when we might see traffic return to normal levels because of exactly that, the devastation and the amount of work that still has to be done to obviously on search and rescue and recovery, but then also in clearing that out as well. So we will follow that, of course, to keep track of how that's going. While I have you on the line, though, did want to touch on a few other logistics challenges if you've got time. Just as an update, I know that we spoke via email anyway a few weeks ago about the Panama Canal. Have we seen an improvement in the moisture situation and in movement through the Panama Canal, or what is happening there?
Well, we've been pleased that the Panama Canal Authority recently increased the amount of allowable transits per day from 24 to 27. That's still down from the normal 36 to 40 transits that they'll expect on a daily basis. But 3 additional transits certainly is helpful. The challenge still remains, though, for agriculture is that the restrictions at the Panama Canal are not evenly spread by all of the different segments, the traffic segments. When you go to the Panama Canal, you still will see cruise vessels going through the canal. You'll still see container vessels or liquefied natural gas or automobile carriers. But what you overwhelmingly will not see are dry bulk vessels transporting soybeans or other kind of grain commodities. And that's because that, number one, we don't pay the kind of tolls that other segments will pay. A cruise ship will easily pay in excess of $1 million in tolls to go through the Panama Canal. A dry bulk vessel transporting soybeans, $200,000, $250,000. So there's kind of quite a disparity between the tolls that we pay, but then also the ability to book a transit well in advance. There's other industries that are able to do that more effectively because they operate with much greater scheduling precision than agriculture does. It's just one of the challenges that our industry faces. So again, if you have limited number of transits per day, those transits are largely going to go to those segments like a cruise ship that can say, we will be at the Panama Canal 6 months from now at this particular time. They have much greater predictive ability to do that than, say, agricultural exports. So as a result, that's why you see agriculture largely on the outside looking in when it comes to the Panama Canal. And it's not due to anything malicious by the Panama Canal Authority. It's just kind of the challenges that we're having to face right now and some of the obstacles agriculture is confronted with. So it is quite unfortunate, and it is something that our one of those key links in our supply chain is encountering a lot of difficulty right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, finally, then, if we can, we'll bring it back closer to home for you. You did mention, of course, the importance of the Mississippi River system of the Gulf of Mexico as well. How are moisture situations looking there? Because that has been a concern as well.
Yeah, we have seen river levels rebound considerably since the fall of last year. But when you look at water levels right now compared to the multi-year average, we're very much at the low end of that range. And so what that means is that if we've got a prolonged period of drought conditions, it won't take much for that to all of a sudden get tipped back into drought and low water conditions, which is going to put restrictions on barge transportation. So we're very much not operating from a position of strength, but a position of weakness. So we're obviously going to be monitoring the amount of precipitation we receive for the foreseeable future. But with drought conditions being what they are, it's going to take not just one big deluge of water, because that only provides marginal benefit. What you need is a nice rainfall and then allowing it to soak in, and then another nice rainfall, a number of days, later. And that's what's going to be required to get us to fully recover from the drought conditions, which then we're in a position for residual water to go to our streams, our rivers, and that's what's really needed to support effective navigation on the Mississippi and other rivers.
Mm-hmm. It is not a one-time thing that's going to fix this many years or this widespread of dry conditions.
No, absolutely. So you really need to allow the ground to just fully absorb that water. Because then, if you get a massive rainfall in one setting, well, you'll see river levels will spike and they'll go really high. But then once that water just simply gets expelled through the system, you're back where you were before. And so that's obviously not something that would be that helpful. We need not only volume of precipitation, but we need it spread over a period of time.
All right. Okay. Mike, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Hey, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.